All right, what is up, everybody? You got NFT Pirates and Sleeping Comics in the house. Man, I've been a huge fan of this guy. His comic book collecting knowledge and obviously his collection as well is legendary. He's so genuine. He's so honest. He goes through like extreme detail. He kind of, we kind of have a similar passion how genuine we are about the space. And I've been bugging him for like the last few months. I'm like, Sleeping, when can we come on? And then it was like, so we're shooting this right now. It's like Saturday night at 11:45 p.m. EST. So to give you a bit of a reflection how committed we are. So what's up, man?
Hey, thanks for having me on. Big fan of yours. Obviously, watched a lot of your stuff. Learned a lot from your channel. So I really appreciate that. And you have great guests. I'm
Oh.
honored to be one of them. Now I can say I've been on NFT Pirates. So that's great. And kind of watched your channel evolve. My channel's been evolving and love your background back there. You
Thanks,
got a
man.
lot of great comics. And so yeah, an incredibly different time maybe than we when we started our channels about a year ago. When did you start your channel? Because I did about a
Yeah,
year ago. Well, I switched to Veve. My channel is years old, but
right.
I switched to Veve. When did you start yours?
Mine was April of 2021, I think. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, wow. So you were
Yeah.
right in the mix in the beginning.
Yeah, I think I joined in March, and then I was like, I put out some really crappy videos in April, and and then people liked it. And Cavell picked me up, and then from there, I only had like 80 subs, but I was so motivated that I even had like a few subs that people were gonna watch. So pretty crazy.
I always tell people my first year, I think I finished, and I was really committed. So I did 2 videos a week, and I
Wow.
did it for a year. And I think at the end of the year, I think I might have had less than 500 subs.
Wow.
So, and I was
Yeah.
actually quite happy with that, honestly.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously, you kind of work it, and then when I switched over to Vv and started doing Vv content, I think I was around 800, and then I got over 1,000, and then I kind of started really moving up, and obviously the rest is history.
Yeah, I remember seeing you. You were like, you almost catapulted because I didn't even know you kind of just came out of left field for me. I was like, oh my God, this guy's really cool. And then before I know it, you had like 7K subs, and I
It,
was like, holy
it
shit.
was, I've been pretty stagnant kind of with the current kind of situation we have with
Same here,
um
man.
but um but yeah, it went from 1,000 to like 5,000, I'd say, pretty fast. That was pretty
Wow.
crazy. Along with that Disney week and all that nonsense last year in November and December and January, it was just like craziness.
Wow. And man,
But it's still fun. And I always sometimes, I don't get obviously as many views as I did maybe back then. But when you're getting thousands of views for your content per video, you got to be happy. You can't be. It's great.
yeah, that's what I mean. And then now we know that these are kind of the true collectors and the people that are
Hmm.
really like convicted in the space. So I find like even though it's lower volume, I'm like the engagement's like really high still, which is awesome. And they look to people like us, man. Like we both I think landed. Well, we didn't land. We bought the secret rare Miles Morales. I think you actually completed the set, so congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And congratulations to you too. Yeah, no, it was
Yeah.
definitely, I'm a huge Miles Morales fan. I've been a fan
Yeah.
for many, many years. And have really known that I think he was going to have his day in the sun. I always tell people I bought 4 Ultimate Fallout 4s, which we have on the app, uh, CGC 9.8s, years ago for about, I think like I got one for like 275, and then the last one I bought was for around $350, which is crazy. And as you know, when at their peak, I think they were maybe around $4,000. They're selling for $4,000 each, and now I think they're around maybe $2,000 each. I'm not sure. It goes up and
Right.
down just like Vivi.
Yeah, exactly. That's insane. And I know we're kind of chatting before the show, potentially have a few things that you can show us because I know that
Oh,
you've
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I have a bunch. We were going to talk Miles, so I grabbed a bunch of Miles Morales
Sweet,
stuff.
man. I
So
got my wine ready here. I'm gonna
all
start just
right. Well,
enjoying the
this is
show.
this is and I've shown this before, but this is Ultimate File 4. We have this on the app. This is the first print, 9.8. The
Beautiful.
significance of this one is that it's signed by Mark Bagley, and did this incredible sketch, which very, very few 9.8s have a sketch like I
Wow.
basically almost never seen it before. So it's pretty cool where he did the sketch with like a Sharpie or something like that. So, and
Damn.
it has these labels are special too, so it's harder to find these labels. They're extra. So this is kind of like creme de la creme, or whatever you want to call it, of like
Yeah.
of Ultimate Fallout 4s. Um,
Damn.
yeah, it's a good one. And I've sold some of the others, and I have some more that they're not signed, they're just the normal ones. So
Yeah.
we'll just keep those, and hopefully those will go up in value.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's a gorgeous comic. I've always wanted to get one too. And like, now that I've got Miles, and I still can't believe the edition size, like 160 public available editions. I was like, how could I not grab one? This is almost Donnie status, right? So
I
yeah.
mean, and that is the thing, is that, I even tweeted out that I thought, everybody's trying to figure out what the mint sizes are going to be. And I thought, I bet you the mint size of the Secret Rare Miles will be the same as Secret Rare Spider-Man 1000,
Right.
which is actually pretty low. And then they came out with that 200 and what, the 250 number, which is
Yeah.
just bonkers. And then someone did some analysis and found out they were going to hold back 90.
Yeah.
So there was actually only 160 publicly available. That just completely blew my brain.
Yeah, same. And like, this is where I kind of wanted to pick your brain too, because we have Spider-Man, right? The FA 60,000 editions that came out, and the Secret Rare limited to 1,000. And here we have the UR 1,000 editions. It's $300 compared to eight and a half. Now it's not the first Marvel NFT. It's not the first Spider-Man. There's a lot of other things behind it, but I guess what my question to you is like, how significant is Miles Morales in compared to Peter Parker or Spider-Man itself? Like, do you think this is the future Spider-Man, or is this just like kind of a rendition? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, the whole concept of having the multiverse, and multiple Spider-Man, even that in itself is relatively new. And when you talk about the grand scheme of Spider-Man and whatnot.
Right.
And I know there's lots of different Spider-Men, or Ghost Spider, if you want to consider her as another one of them, throughout the multiverse. And they have that kind of Spider-Verse comic book series, which has been very popular, and we saw that movie. But of all the different Spider-Man, obviously there's Peter Parker, who's the first. Miles is just simply different than all those. So people are like, what's the difference between Ben Riley and Miles
Right.
Morales? And really, in the game of, Spider-Man, or if you want to call it, Miles Morales sits very close to Peter Parker. No one will ever, he's the first one, and obviously, but it's different. And they somehow were able to capture some of the chemistry and creativity with that character, and you hardly ever see that. And obviously they try again and again, Marvel does, to introduce characters all the time, and only a couple of them really hit. And for some reason, Miles hits all those beats. And if you read his comics, and then of course they were able to find that with Into the Spider-Verse, that show, that movie, excuse me, which was amazing. And that's
Right.
really the big introduction. And then they had the PlayStation 4 game, which
Mm,
was a huge, at the time, is one of the things that catapulted Miles. That was and so back then, like I said, the 9.8s were going for around $300, and suddenly they jumped to 1,000. And I
wow.
remember it was like, took maybe about 2 or 3 months, and it was a buzz, and everybody said that this is unbelievable. And I actually sold a couple of mine at that point, because I was like, wow, 1,000 is, 4x, right?
Yeah, let's go.
And then I felt like it'd fall back. Oh no, it just kept going. And I feel like, and I might not, people could disagree with this, but I feel like the only way I can try to explain it is, it's kind of like a Facebook versus like IG and TikTok. Like,
Mm,
my kids will always be like, well, I'm not going to get on Facebook. That's for old people.
right.
Whereas like IG, and even now IG is kind of falling off, right? Now it's
Right.
like TikTok, right? But that's just more hip. That's like more in vogue.
Yeah.
Like, my kids aren't going to wear what I wear. You know what I mean?
Right.
And for a lot of variety of reasons, because my wardrobe is not very good. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so something about Miles is, he's just more hip. He's just more cool. For younger people, he just resonates better with them. And that, of course, is what Marvel's always been searching for, right? Because
Right.
they are trying to find, they want their old characters, and they're established, and those are great, but they're always looking for these other characters
Mm,
that will resonate. And that's part of what Peter Parker did at the time for those younger, generally men,
yeah.
who are growing up in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, like myself, reading those comics. It felt right. And that's why Miles has this big chance because he feels right for this next generation.
Man,
And it'll never, you know, take over Peter Parker, but it's different.
yeah. Wow, you put that so, together so eloquently. I think that was kind of what I was missing. I didn't really understand, kind of what it was, right? I was like, I knew Miles was important. I knew a lot of people were saying that he's going to be huge in the MCU. I'm really taking a chance on, like, how there's also a Black Spider-Man, and we don't see a lot of diversity in superheroes right now. So I think that's really great too. But yeah, like I love what you said, because it is kind of the future, and that's like I could see a Miles Morales movie with Jaden Smith or something, and like
Right.
really kind of like taking the reign for younger people. So that's that. I love how you describe that. Yeah.
He's coming. They'll probably jump him. I don't want to give spoilers for what's going to happen if they follow the comics, because he does jump from the his current universe, which is the 1610 Ultimate Universe, which is
Hmm.
like a parallel universe, into the 616, which is kind of the normal mainline Marvel. They do jump him across. And
Right.
I feel like, personally, I feel like they did it because he's just such an important character. They're like, we cannot have him in this other universe. We got to make up a story to get him over into the 616. And so
Right.
how they do that in the movies, we don't know. But obviously, he lives in the Ultimate Universe, and we see that in the movie Into the Spider Verse, and then the next Into the Spider Verse 2 is coming out. It was supposed to come out, I think, like right now, but they delayed it
Wow.
till next June. And if you've seen the previews for it, they're super spectacular. Spider-Man 2099 is in the trailer and whatnot. But that will probably be an incredible movie. And then they've got to figure out how they're going to jump them into the 616. Now,
Right.
I don't know if I should say this. All right,
Say it.
spoiler alert. Pause it for the next. So in the comics, Secret Wars is where they bring him and jump him across.
Whoa.
So what did they announce for 2025? They announced at San Diego Comic-Con this year that in 2025 they'll have an Avengers Secret War movie.
Holy crap.
Now, is that when they jump him across? I don't know, but they do like to kind of follow the comics.
Right. Wow. Man, you're so knowledgeable. I feel like this is more of
Well,
a
no,
learning
I don't.
lesson.
It's funny if people are like, "You're so knowledgeable," but I feel like in
Yeah.
the game of comics, I am very average. Like you can
Right.
talk to like most comic book people know what I have. I'm not saying 99% of all comic book people could just tell you what I just told. It's not. This is not like crazy
Well,
knowledge.
but you do, you are good at making the shots or calling the shots. Because I know we also talked about how, back in the day, and even now as well, you're picking up, cheap comic books. You're seeing their
Yeah,
major first appearances, especially in the Miles Morales franchise, right? And I
yeah.
think you have a
So
few of them too.
that was my kind of claim to fame before I had some of my channels. Like I called Venom 7, Venom 9, which had this kid in it, which turned
Yeah.
out to be Eddie Brock's son, who Eddie Brock is Venom.
Damn.
And I just said, this kid is so I just bought Venom 9s everywhere I could.
Wow.
And of course, what happened if you follow, once again, spoiler alert, if you follow the comics, um, Eddie Brock's son, Dylan, it has all these powers. And in the end, Eddie Brock basically becomes something else, and Dylan takes
Mm.
over as Venom.
Mm.
So that's the comic. So Venom 9, which we don't have on the app, but I'm assuming we probably will, is a great comic. I beat the drum on that for so many years. And then, of course, it came to fruition. Obviously, is the same we saw with America Chavez and Ms. Marvel and other ones. But I have a couple others, and then we'll just here. So this one is
Yeah. That's the one
so
I
this
wanted to
is the
see.
secret rare. This
That's
is a
crazy.
facsimile of it. It's not the real one, and we can
Mm.
talk a little bit about that. I know you know a lot, some about that.
Mhm.
So the real one, there's not very many. I think there might be only like 1,000 of them or something like that,
Wow.
and there's only like 169.8s, and they sell for around 25 to
Oh
$30,000.
my God.
Even a guy tried to sell me a 9.4 last week actually, and I think he was asking like 8K for it or something like that. I can't remember. It was
Damn.
a lot. So there's just not many in existence. And so once again, this is the Ultimate Fallout 4. So it's the same
Yeah.
one as this. It's just the
The
very rare
variant,
1
right?
in 25 variant.
Jeez. It's gorgeous looking, right? It's nice
Yeah,
to
it's
see it
really good.
like in the physical form. I've seen it, I think, before, but it was a facsimile as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Like I said, I don't actually even know anybody. I mean, maybe I know one person who owns one. They're rare,
Yeah.
189.8, like I said, or 169.8.
Wow.
Another one which we is coming out this week. So this one is Miles Morales #1. This is the current run, and so he's in the 616 here.
So sick.
And this week in Veve, this is um the auction. So they're selling the original art of this. Um and I'm sure it will
Wow.
get a pretty penny. So this book has actually gone up quite a bit in value. That surprises me.
Man, we got to get Dr. Profit ready for that one, right? He'll
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure he already knows all this stuff.
Yeah, wow. That's so beautiful, man. I love seeing the physical stuff because it just is so nice to kind of, pair it up with your digital counterpart as well. And like, just one thing that you said that kind of hit me hard there was like there's 169.8s of that 1 in 25 variant. And then I'm thinking like on the VV app, I'm like, oh, there's also 160.
It's
You know
very
what I'm saying?
yeah, I saw that. So then I'm like,
Yeah.
honestly, I thought about that because I'm like, there's 160 and 100. Actually, I think there's 161.
Oh, there we go.
But
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I was like, okay, so does that mean that SR Spider-Man on VV is going to go to $25,000? Maybe.
Yeah, yeah, right. Makes you think, right? Man, and the whole thing I wanted to ask you too, and I feel like since we're on this topic, is this, reprint, facsimile, and now we have like the remints or mints, whatever you want to say, like it depends on the person talking, of these same comics on the blockchain. And people are like, well, it's significant, and this is what I've always said, because it's coming out on the blockchain and any medium, right? And maybe it's a comic book first, and then people are saying it's shared IP of the actual comics, but at the same time, I can go into like a bookstore and find like Fantastic Four #1 blown up on in a book for like $50 and read it there and it's in perfect condition. And so I think some people still see them as like just a variant or a fourth or fifth edition. As I think this is almost like a revolution, but I wanted to get your take on that because I've asked a few comic book experts this, and it's still a tricky issue. I don't know if it's solved, but yeah,
No, I mean, I'm with you 100%. It's a tricky issue, and it's
yeah,
because we don't know.
right. We
That's
don't.
the problem. And I did a video on this too, but I've given it a lot of thought, and really even what we think right now might change in another 6 months, right? Probably will
Yeah,
change in another 6 months. But
right.
but what I said in that, and I think this is what's correct, is one of the ways I said is let's describe what we have at VV, what it isn't. Well, it's not the original. I mean, here, I have the original right here. Here's the original, you know what I mean? It's
Right.
not a reprint. I have reprints. It's not a facsimile, which is different than a reprint.
Yeah.
A facsimile is almost an original printed copy of the original, even with the ads in it. Some
Mm,
reprints don't have the ads in it, like from the original, but the
right.
but the facsimiles that have come out more recently, like there's a facsimile of the Ultimate Fallout 4 that's come out, and it's like it literally is like the original one, except it's a reprint, like you said. But those
Mm,
are all physical. I think VV is something completely different. What you said, so we know what is it. Well, we know it's digital. We know it's
right.
licensed by Marvel, sanctioned by Marvel, and we know that it allows us to use AR and put it in our vaults.
Right.
So my thing that I have said to people, it is a digital license.
Right.
So another way to say it would be like, and once again, I don't know, but like the Mona Lisa, that obviously is it's a 1-1, it's whatever. Somebody has the digital rights to that. So if you take the Mona Lisa and just start putting it on your website, you might get sued.
Right.
Somebody owns the digital rights to that in Web
Mm,
2.
mm,
But in Web 3, I don't know who owns the digital rights to it. So what we have purchased, it seems like we have purchased here. I'll just use Ultimate Fallout 4. There are 30,000 licenses for Ultimate Fallout 4, and we purchased one of them.
right.
And in the Web 3 world, does that allow you to put it on your Web 2 website? Probably not. But in
Yeah.
the Web 3 world, we have free reign. And so I think it's pretty significant.
Yeah. I hear you. And so, okay, so I loved how the man you break information down so well. And then coupled with that, here's why I'm so bullish on the digital. I look at all these beautiful comics in the background that are, encased into these glass things, and you can't really do much with them. I mean, it's not as if you're going to burst into that and break it out and start reading it. It's obviously an amazing collector's item, but I'm just thinking, like, what is the added benefits of having these first appearances on the blockchain, even though it might not be the first time it was imagined and printed, but it's still representing that. And then what can I do with them? Like, what is the added utility? Like, it's not going to wear and tear, it's reduced space, and I can bring it into AR. In the future, I'm able to maybe put it into a hologram. I can maybe show it off in the metaverse. I can build my social capital off that. I can maybe use it as a PFP picture on Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much more that I see that could come from these their digital counterparts, so to speak. And you know, the other issue I have is that we have now these comics which are based off huge price points in real life. And we're saying it's kind of a safe bet. Well, that's how it feels, because you're like, oh, that's a $3.5 million comic for AF-15 at the highest grade. Man, if I get that on Veve, the secret rare, that's only 250 editions. That should be, people understand that value. But then we move over to the collectibles, which the highest collectible you ever see in real life is 6 grand, right? I mean, maybe there's more, but I mean, just, approximately. And now on Veve, we have somewhat the all-time high. We're like 100 plus thousand for this statue. And we don't have a lot of good physical comparisons to draw from, but we still think they're significant because maybe they're potential future avatars, or maybe there's interoperability, but it's a lot of speculation. So I know I just threw a lot at you there, but it's an exciting space. But like you said, it's still, there's still a lot to learn, and there's no guarantees on anything, right?
It's 100%. It is the
Yeah.
wild, wild west. I mean, we don't know. It's all speculation, and value is a weird thing. So right now, the value is it's tied into these utility pieces that we have, and really the utility that we have with some. Obviously, we can use it. We're talking about the collectibles, no, not the comics. We can use those in AR. You can use them
Right.
as a PFP, really, and it's not even tied in yet to Twitter. So you could just, but eventually it will be. We know that, and Facebook and other things. They're going to check our wallets and stuff like that. They'll eventually have all that.
Right.
But the interesting thing is what else beyond that? Now people built some groups around it, and there's some other stuff. It really is a question of how and what are how are these things gonna, are they simply going to be collector's items, or are they going to have additional things? Now,
Mm-hmm.
if they're simply collector items that are rare and are first edition, that's not bad. They could hold value.
Right.
Like here, see that statue right there, Venom holding the Infinity Gauntlet
Yeah.
behind me.
Yeah.
Okay, there's only like 40 of those.
Wow.
Okay, it's based off of a Clayton Crane cover, Venom
Right.
7. Okay, so only 40 of those are in the world. You get no utility. You can't use that as your PFP or anything. Like, it's a really kick-ass cool statue. It's rare, but it's simply a collector's item. I really like Venom. Another guy might like Venom. He
Yeah.
likes it. He likes that cover. He'd buy it from me. I paid $1,000 for it. He might pay, I don't even know what they go for. I might not even be able to get $1,000 for it now.
Right.
But either way, so the question is our Miles SR, is it just simply a collector's item and it's rare? That will have value in itself. But if you can get like some of these other pieces that we've talked about, maybe there is a group around it of my super crazy Miles fans that give different benefits.
Mm.
If Marvel gives some sort of different things, if there's different pieces of the puzzle that we can't even understand yet, like you said, PFP or an avatar or other things that you get to use it in Fortnite, no one else can use that, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It it that is where you get this multiplication, and you talk about it a lot in your channel, of value, and it's gonna be worth a bunch of money.
Right.
Because in itself, this is just a collector's item.
Right.
Like you said, it's really, there's no groups that, I mean, you can't get a group, you know what I mean? So there's so much more potential, I think, for these collectibles. And it's pretty exciting, I think. I think we're just beginning.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm glad we kind of walked through that and just kind of took our time with it because I think it's such a complicated topic, right? And like, and then from that, there's all this other varying levels of intricacies, including, the mint number on Vv compared to the sequential mint number on the blockchain. Then there's, the issue of, well, if this is Vader first appearance in any medium in the comic, then is that really the FA collectible because it already came out before that? And if we have a significant comic, let's say we have Hulk number 1, but Hulk already came out in a crappy comic for the first time, so there's so many questions that I guess we still have. And then I think that's why a lot of people will then move towards something like Bored Apes, because they're like, oh, it's new IP, it's popular, and it's not anywhere else, and it's kind of starting to be proven somewhere else. And it's like, so how much are we kind of, I mean, kind of hitting our heads off the same wall, thinking that things are going to change because it's already kind of licensed IP that's already so important everywhere else. And maybe blockchain is just a variant of, the bigger IP kind of thing. Like almost, it kind of reminds me of like how Disney, when Pogs were, popular and it was a fad, Disney got into that, when there was other cards or whatever, they get into all these different things. And maybe people think that NFTs are just a fad, but I think you and I both share the interpretation that this is a revolution. Like we're having a one-time shift from the physical to the digital, where like the metaverse, as an example, will be a part of most people's everyday lives in a matter of time, whether that be 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right?
Yeah, I think it's when everybody is spending big money, there
Yeah.
has to be some sort of value there. So it's when you're buying Spider-Man and you love Spider-Man, the value is your emotional attachment to that character, somehow, way,
Mm.
shape, or form. Bored Apes, they jumped the shark, or however you want to say it, because they were the first or whatever, and they kind of were able to
Mm.
navigate in with their and create a brand out of nothing. And the value there isn't that I grew up with Bored Apes and I love them and have an emotional attachment and they taught me lessons when I was a teenager. No, it's celebrities and other things are attached to it. They kind of were able to jump the
Yeah.
shark there. So in a weird way, I don't know if that will happen again. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. So what the value that we have, and I always say this about my comics too, is the value that we have, especially with the Marvel and Disney stuff, is that we have a quadrillion-dollar company that spends $1 billion in marketing on our collectibles. In other words, they make all these crazy movies and they put Spider-Man in it. And after that, they run commercials and they do ads. And then they have so we have constantly 24/7. If you're a Disney person, they're pushing Disney stuff to you. And if you're a Marvel person, they're coming out with Disney Plus shows in that ecosystem nonstop. So we basically have somebody putting, and I'm not even exaggerating, probably
Yeah.
$1 billion in the marketing for our IP. That's the significance of that. Same with
Right.
DC, same with Harry Potter. I mean, that's those established IPs. And that would be the quote unquote issue with some of the independent artists that we have. Once they're out and gone, who is spending $1 billion in marketing continuing to push that product?
Right.
It's more of a, and they are those artists are always working their butt off probably to market themselves so people know who they are, and they already are pretty big if they probably came to our platform. But
Yeah.
it's not like this constant barrage that we are basically taking advantage of. I always say I have all these comics down here in my basement, and I have $1 billion in marketing every year.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, like you can go to Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, Australia, and you say, hey, do you know what Superman is? And somebody's, of course, you're an idiot, right? And like that's the beauty, like you said, of being part of these huge, huge brands is that you have that sustainability, you have that longevity. We've already seen it. As everything else, you're kind of taking a chance. And that's the whole reason I got into Vv as well. I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. NFTs are popular. Here we have licensed, NFTs best in the world, and I can buy them for $79 at the time, So it's just like it's pretty amazing, right?
And it's a marriage. It's so brand new that it's every single person, including myself. And I mean, once again, not every person, but I'll bet 99% of people come to crypto or NFTs or digital collectibles, whatever you want to call them, to make money.
Mm,
They're like, I want to put in, $5 and I want to get out 10. That's it, period.
yeah.
Now, the beauty of Veve and other things is that people actually end up liking the collectibles and they meet people and they love the community. That's the double bonus, right? It probably honestly probably has to be there, but it works because the IP that they have, these companies are spending, $1 trillion a year helping people remember that Superman is awesome. And so
Right.
that's what helps us. And it makes the case a little bit easier because in the end, you want people to put in money. And so they're not going to put into money generally if something they haven't heard of. So that's
Mm,
that's the that's why it's that marriage of kind of like, hey, I can make some money plus it's an IP that I'm familiar with.
right.
I
Right.
mean, right now, obviously, and we've talked about this, and I'm going to talk about this in my video tomorrow, actually. So sneak peek is
Yes.
the the we constantly talk about the macro world and we're in recession and blah 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 blah, and it's true. We're not lying about that. Nobody's lying about that. But like somebody pointed out to me that when they buy gems in their country, because everything is basically a gem is basically a US dollar, and the US dollar is so strong now
Right.
that they tried to get 50 gems and it was costing them 92 of their dollars.
Yeah.
So that's a real number. So we were like, oh, I want to get miles and it's expensive. It's 4K. No, for them, it's 8K.
Yes.
And so you're like, I don't understand why miles isn't going up because basically now the only people who can buy it are here in the United States. And that's a limiting factor. Whereas before we were getting all these different countries being able to participate. I'm not saying they're not participating, but just look at that ratio. It's basically like they have to buy, when people are buying gems off app for 0.7 or 0.5 or 0.3 or something crazy, right? No, they're like the reverse now, though. These people need to buy gems at double the price. That's rough.
Crazy. Totally agree with you, man. That's such a good point you bring up because that's even for me in Canada, it's not quite that stark, but it's still like probably $75 for 50 gems, something ish around there.
So
It's
it's
expensive.
significant. That
Yeah.
Spider-Man was expensive for you.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
And
Yeah.
so that's a real, people are like, oh, no, well, whatever, it's a recession. No, it's real. Like, it's
Yeah.
not like, and so I think that, and we can go into the macroeconomics of why the dollar's stronger because we rolled interest rates and blah, blah. We don't need to get any of that. We all understand that.
Yeah.
But it's, that's the way it's going to be for a little bit. And then, it's tough because a lot of people, it's really expensive for them to participate.
Yeah, it really is, man. And I think that's the thing that is like kind of limiting our focus as well. And then like localization being another key piece. And like, there's so many factors, right? And I think, the one thing I keep telling people too is like with the amount of NFTs that keep getting dropped and not a lot of new users or even users that we may have that are not as engaged, we keep seeing the money being spread thinner and thinner. You know what I mean? There's not enough jam to cover all the pieces of bread because it's just like there's so much money to go around, and I feel like that's why, some people, it's almost like we're kind of slowly receding. But I keep telling people like, there's some of this IP that it's so limited, so scarce, and it's the first time it's appeared. In any collector, that enjoys this stuff and has respect for the digital age, that's always going to be significant in my opinion. Like I don't see why it wouldn't be. I get the whole thing with the keys. I think that there's some people that complain about that, or they don't see that there's like the interoperability, or they're worried that Veve because it's more centralized. But I think ultimately it's still, I mean, it's still really valuable. I mean, I don't know.
It's amazing. Yeah, I'm 100% with you. It's like when I first got into Bitcoin in 2015, of course, you wanted it to double the next year, but I had to really wait till 2017 to really see
Mm,
some big gains. So and if you go backwards in time, if you're like investing in the stock market or, this is the game. It doesn't happen overnight. We maybe saw some of that, kind of that was exciting, in the last, couple years. And, we know why that was with COVID and other things. So it's, we're going to have to be patient. It's difficult to be patient, and it's more difficult to be patient with a brand new technology and speculative market because
right.
it's one thing if you're investing in oil and you know what it is and you're waiting. It's another thing to be investing in this brand new thing and you're like, oh my god, this thing might just disappear the next day. We don't really know.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think that's the part that freaks people out too, is like they're kind of like thinking that, hey, this, because you always hear it now. People are like, "Oh, NFTs were just a fad." People are like, "Did you pull out at the right time?" And I'm like, "No, I still believe in this space, so much, right?" But I just hear that a lot from people. Like they think it was just the a once and done kind of thing, and I'm like, I really think it's just the inverse of that. Like even in hospital data now, we're using a lot of stuff. So it's like, yeah,
I think that blockchain tech and all this other stuff, it's here to stay and it's going to change the world. That's like a no brainer. I'll argue that with anybody.
yeah,
And I don't know how you wouldn't because it's just better. It's a better way of managing data, tech, et cetera. And we're just going to go towards that.
right,
It's like, I'm never going to use a mobile phone. I'm going to use the one connected to my wall the rest of my life. Well, you can, but a mobile phone is just easier, better, et cetera, et cetera.
right.
And so it's just, that. But the question, which would be a legitimate thing, would be what I like to say, and it's the best analogy that I can find out, is the Betamax versus VHS. So back in the day, you probably don't remember. I remember because
I
I'm old.
remember.
Is that there was these two? Sony had this thing called Betamax, and VHS was VHS, and they were both competing in there. And actually, I think Betamax had the better picture quality and image. It was like a Sony product, like I said, and it lost. It lost out, and VHS became the standard, and then Betamax disappeared. So the question is Veve Betamax, and there's other VHSs, and we're good and awesome, but it doesn't matter. The rest of the marketplace and world, for whatever reason, chooses VHS.
Right.
But either way, there's gonna be digital collectibles that are NFTs that are gonna be, on the blockchain. It's just the question is, did we pick the wrong brand? I don't know. I haven't seen
Yeah.
any evidence of that,
Yeah.
but that would be the thing that I would worry about.
Mm, yeah. It's a good point you make. And I always tell people that as well. Like there's going to be so many more competing NFT platforms. Like I know we have Wax Recur, like there's so many other ones that are kind of getting started as well. Palm, obviously. But I agree that like it's kind of like, picking your battles now. And I think what I say to people is like, because of the amount of first appearances on the blockchain and the quality of those models and how much earlier they came in a lot, and not every instance, but in a lot of instances, I'm like, to me, I feel like it's just significant enough where it's got to be remembered. Like when I think about Mickey and Walt in an NFT, I'm like, that is just, that's huge in my opinion. Like that's very memorable. Like if, NFTs and as you said, blockchain is so significant, then when somebody asks that question in 10 years from now, like, they're going to have to say Vivi, whether they like it or not. And one thing I keep saying is, what if they had like an actual Web3 company that then kind of did like almost a massive, scope or kind of like research synthesis on all the different things that hit the blockchain and then started putting out verifications. Do you see what I mean? Like almost like a food label at grocery stores where like it's just like this entity that like everybody knows is respected. Maybe it's even government operated or something to that effect, where you go for like trusted, valid information because everything else is like the Wild West. And there it says, hey, yeah, this is technically first appearance, any medium here. This, you know what I mean? And then that to me would denote a lot more significance.
I think the marketplace does dictate that to a certain degree and
Yeah,
manages that, but I think you're 100% right. And it could be done. To a
yeah,
certain degree, physical stuff, it can't be done because there's just all stuff. But on a blockchain, you could have computers and other things do analysis. So you're right.
yeah.
I just think that we don't know what's going to happen. So that obviously is scary. The one other thing I want to say about these collectibles, and we think of them as these things, and we hope that they're going to be of value later, is that Veve, even in the last year that I've been watching, the quality of the NFTs has gotten better. Now we have some ones that people don't like as much, like Electra and other things, and they give me a
Yeah,
hard time. But in the case of Veve, and they always pride themselves on premium digital collectibles. I mean, they are no joke. Go look at Darth Vader. Go look at that TIE fighter, and go look
yeah.
at Mysterio with the crazy smoke.
I know.
Unreal. And then I saw your tweet where you went in like very close to Miles Morales
Yeah,
SR, like his fabric, and he's like breathing.
it's
It
insane.
is absolutely bonkers. And I think about the quality, not to pick things, but I was enamored with the quality of some of the original, and I think it's still really beautiful. The original Golden Moments, I still think they're great,
Yeah,
but that quality even is nothing now compared to that Mysterio.
it's true.
That Mysterio with the smoke is like insane. And then when you think about Miles and he goes like transparent,
It's crazy.
bonkers. And this is where it's interesting because obviously, look here, I'm into statues and I like statues. I got some cool statues, right?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, none of them go transparent like that.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that is insane.
Right. I hear you. Like already you're seeing that added utility that you can't get with a
Because
physical
sometimes you
statue.
just like to buy cool shit. You know
That's
what I
it.
mean? Not to
Yes.
sorry, swear on your
Oh,
channel. I
I
don't know if I
swear
can.
all the time.
Okay,
So
I don't know if I can
I'm
swear on your
no,
channel.
no,
This
no.
is like
Buddy,
not
I'm got
safe for
a
work chat, not safe for work swear, but
beer and
whatever.
wine deep right now. So we're, yeah, swear all you
But
want.
you know,
Yeah.
but I'm saying like, so they are. I, I think that they have achieved that,
Mhm.
and so everybody's got to compete. That's the name of the game. And so when someone comes to compete with Veve, we always say that with my company, current company. Someone's gonna come compete with us. So what do they have to do to compete? Well, if you're coming to compete with Veve, you better have some crazy like NFTs that turn transparent and I can see right through them.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, do you also have the major licensed IP? And
Well,
is this
that's
a
the other
second
problem.
edition?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you, man. And so, here's another thing I wanted to ask you. I'm going to switch it up a little bit because I was like, I got Sleeping on the channel. We got to run through this. What are you buying right now, man? Like, what is your game like? Are you just like actually injecting like real cool cash into the system? Are you flipping around? What are you
Some
up
I
to,
flip a
man?
lot, but yeah. So
Yeah.
I my just like everybody, I don't want to put any fiat in, and so I
Yeah.
try over the I just when you think you've got the game figured out, the game changes, right? So
Yeah.
so the game initially was I bought a bunch of these Ultimate Fallout 4s. I can't remember for like 20, 30 gems, and then I was selling them for like 125.
Oh,
And I
shit.
was like, this is the best. I have this game figured out. And then I thought that, and eventually I ran out of them because I sold them. I mean, this was like, I made, and that's how I got the liquidity to go to the next move and the next move.
Right.
But then what happened is I bought a bunch of, ghost spiders. I bought a bunch of storms. I bought a bunch of these things. And I'm like, all right, here we go, rinse and repeat. But then the market started crashing and all this other stuff.
Hmm.
And so, as you know, I can't unload the 20 ghost spiders I have. I can't unload the 20 storms I have. I
Yeah.
bought them too high. I could for, a loss, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so the game changed, as you know, back in whatever it was,
Like March or
kind of
April,
May.
right?
May it started
Yeah,
to really,
true.
even before the April, maybe it started really slowing down. So I have tried to look at different things, and my deal was in this bear market, there's still things that go up. And so the big play that I did, which you may or may not be aware of, is I bought a bunch of those Marvel Now point one SRs for like 100,
Wow.
and I bought about 150 of them.
Wow.
So there's only 600 or 500 publicly available. They kept some, and so those moved from 100 to about 200. And so I've been able to sell some of those off. I still have about 135 of them or something like that. So
Damn.
that's given me some liquidity, and I put some of my own in, and I kind of buy different things. And so I'm still looking towards well, another thing that once again using my comic knowledge but doesn't work in VV is I'm like, okay, here we go. Doom is supposed to come out in Black. He's supposed to make an appearance in Black Panther 2.
Mm,
So let's invest hard in Fantastic Four 5, his first appearance, and then when he shows up in the movie, I'll make a bunch of money. We
right.
have seen no evidence where a character makes a debut in a show or a movie that it moves the market in VV.
Right. Right.
Whereas in comics, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Like if you had a Fantastic Four 5, as soon as he shows up, that's when you'd sell. The market's going to go bonkers. You could make a bunch of money.
Right.
Even the introduction of Wolverine is going to be in the next Deadpool. They're going to bring back Hugh Jackman. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw that.
Uh,
Looks good. Yeah.
so that made Hulk 181, which is Wolverine's first appearance, jump up again, even in this bear market in the physical world.
Damn.
But that doesn't happen in VV. So you have to play a different game. So the game that I've been trying to do is still stack different various characters that I think are gonna still come out in the MCU that people are completely unaware of. Get these for the low prices, and you really have to look for scarcity right now because we just don't have that many active users.
Right. Right. Well, listen, I'm gonna have to get your entire list after this. Okay, I'll pay you for it. No, no, I'm just
Well, no, I could talk to you about a couple now, or we could do whatever. It doesn't matter to
yeah.
me.
No, I mean that's really cool, and it's nice to see the game that you've kind of like developed. And I think that was one of the things that a lot of people learn about like somebody like Silicon early on, who instead of chasing all the really scarce stuff, which I did early on, I don't know if I ever told you that, but like I chose chase the Golden Moogly, the Rizzos, everything that was like the best on the app other than Donnie at the time. And I was getting all this stuff and I was like, selling Todd's and selling other things to get that liquidity. And then once I saw Todd hit 14K, I'm like, I could have easily had 100 Todd's and sold them, and it was so hard to take. So I think, the issue that I'm seeing now is like, if, like, because Veve's whole enterprise is essentially works off of like mass adoption, right? Like that's how you really get those big prices. And what I've seen from like just a general understanding of it is like, once you have a ton of like really, really popular IP, as long as it's like the edition size is not insane, then they should go up tremendously because like you get the people coming in and they want what they know. As some of this scarce stuff, like you talked about earlier with the artists and whatever, even though it might be a lot of money or worth a lot of value to some people, not everybody knows the artist or not everybody wants that. So my whole thing is like when you have scarcity and popularity mixed together and you have historical significance like Spider-Man FA or like whatever, Miles Morales MC1, Fantastic Four #1, Fantastic Four #5, you name it. You're like, okay, there's a slow edition size, there's a lot of demand, and then I just think blast off if we ever get there, right?
And I think about I've talked about this in my videos too, is like how many like whales are there? So and then there's like Kraken super whales. So a Kraken super
Yes.
whale in my mind is someone who like literally money is no object, like a Dr. Profit. Like he just doesn't care. And in
Right.
my estimation, we probably only have like 10 of them.
Yes.
So I always think about it, if they came out with a collectible and there were only 10 of them, then the price would be $100,000. Well, we have an example of that. Go look at the bond tickets.
Right. Seven
And
of
I'm
them.
not saying that I don't want to, make fun of James Bond as the brand, but it's not that big, right?
Yeah.
Those tickets are not that big. But you have 10 super whales that money is no object. So okay, so let's extrapolate that. So what happens if they had 50? Well, let's go look at the ones they have 50. It's still very, very, you can look at that Amazing Spider-Man 252. Look at the like ultra rare and the secret rare.
Yeah.
There's 40 of them. There's 40 secret rares, okay? And they're what? They're gone. No one can buy them. They're
Yeah.
basically non-existent. Okay, so let's extrapolate further. What happens if there's 100? Well, we have collectibles that are 100, and they're expensive. Like even the Iliad like dinosaur thing or whatever. They're
Yeah.
like
It took off to like 4 or 5K at the time.
right because that's the whales we have. We have
Yeah.
about my estimation. We have about 10 super whales and about 80 to 100 um whales that they're spec. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But let's look at Miles now. Miles SR is 160. So 100 of them went to those whales.
Right.
100, no. And Dr. Profit probably bought a couple of them. And, another guy, probably bought, we know the names, right? I don't need to know. We know the names,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the problem is there's 40 left.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing right now. Go look in the market. There's 45 available right now. 20 of those are at like 10,000, 20,000. They're up there. Some of them are at 9,900,000. Those are
Yeah.
not for sale. Those are just a joke. People are flexing,
Yeah.
obviously. I do that too, whatever. There's 21 for sale for real, for real. And that's what I'm saying. If we had 160 whales, there'd be zero for sale. So the question is can we get 160 whales? Oh yeah, we're going to get 160 whales. We just got to wait a little bit of time.
Yes. Yes. Brilliant point. Because what whale wouldn't want something that scarce, especially when we're entering the VV verse?
Well, it's
You
tough
know?
because if it's I mean, once again, I don't want to disparage any of the collectibles. I like all the collectibles and I respect all the independent artists,
Yeah. Yeah. For
but it's
sure.
not as big as some are not as well known as others. That's a good way to say it. I think some are not as
Yeah.
well known as others. Miles Morales, I think everybody understands what it is. They may not be a huge fan of him, but it's big enough that a whale would be like, yeah, 3,000, 3,500. I'm going to eat that.
Yeah.
We don't have 160 whales because if we did, it would be like that SR2 ASM 252.
Yeah. I got you. It would be at that point where it's essentially off the market. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's funny because I remember there was a lot of controversy at the time when because I think you put that as S tier on your VV ranking site, and I know a lot of people were like, oh well, I think I actually, let me see if I got a copy. Maybe I can flex for once here. I've got a copy of ASM 252 somewhere. I think it's just yeah. Let me see if I can find it. But I just remember you at the time were saying like, it's still amazing because there's only 1,000 editions, and compared to like the CGC census and everything, like this is a whole different understanding of what it means now in the digital realm, right? And so like it's no different than other scarce IP that's really popular that's dropped. You know what I mean? It has almost brings a whole new meaning when fewer people can have it. So yeah,
It, the problem is, the thing is that it's
there you go.
yes, first
Yeah,
black suit. Okay, so the thing about that comic, let's talk about it is that at the time it was extremely scarce.
yeah,
The question is what would happen if they were to drop that today? I don't think it would do nearly as well. But the significance of it is it's actually not that bad a comic. That's what everybody didn't understand, is that
mm,
if it was like, X-Men, was it 308, which is the Thanksgiving one we have? That's a nothing comic. No offense to that comic.
yeah,
And there was 1,000 of them. It wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have given it S tier. It would have had value, but it wouldn't. It's because that's the first black suit. It's kind of an homage to AF-15. That's
yeah,
not a bad comic. And so when you add all that together, plus it's low, um, its scarcity, that's why I gave it the grade that I did.
right.
And I don't know if it performed like I guarantee it would perform like that in this market.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so I'm gonna shoot off some questions to you here, and from kind of like if I put a gun to your head right now and I said you can only have one collectible or comic on the app, what is it? AF-15 SR?
Yeah, I'd like
Yeah,
to. I don't have one. I'd like to get an AF-15 SR. I think that's.
yeah,
I don't think anybody debate that. That's like the real
that's
deal.
easy. And after that, where would you go? MC1 SR, or would you hit SR Spidey, or where would you go after that? Number
For me, it
two.
would be it would be Ultimate Fallout 4 SR, which I do own because I'm such a big
Nice.
Miles fan.
Oh,
So
I
that
like
would
that. I like that. See, that's not,
that
it's,
would be that would be that's
yeah,
one I would not let go. I like that
cool.
one. I don't own it in real life. I'd really like to own it in real life.
Yeah,
It's that one's a cool one.
yeah,
MC1 SR is obviously a big one. I mean, come
yeah.
on.
Come on, right? I just find it interesting, like, just hear the different, perceptions, right? Because I'm like, somebody was saying to me like recently, they're like, "Hey, man, what would you rather, partners and SR Miles?" And I was like, "Well, SR, I was like thinking like, okay, partners is obviously really significant, huge IP, Mickey Mouse, holy shit, Walt Disney, oh my god." But in the current market, 4,333 compared to 160, I'm like, I just think like you said earlier, like it might be the better bang for the buck temporarily, unless maybe partners gets insane utility or we start seeing the masses again. But if you're looking at like a short term kind of play, I don't know. You know what I mean? So it's just everything's very
It's kind
dependent.
of like, do you want a Ferrari or a Porsche? They're both incredible cars. They'd be fun to drive.
Yes.
They'd be fun to own. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Both well respected. You know what I mean? Yeah. Interesting, man. Okay, here's another one for you. Fantastic One or Fantastic Four number one. What is it now? Amazing Spider-Man. Oh man, which one was it? It's one of the first ones that ever got released. I think it was like the third or fourth comic. It was like a long, like Raider before Fantastic Four number one, Amazing Spider-Man
Number one, maybe.
number one. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Fantastic Four number one.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
because it's not Amazing Spider-Man number one isn't the first appearance,
Yeah.
and so um I just knew. I always knew that they were going to come out with A15, and that one was going to kind of go in the tank. That was my opinion, and the fact that there's so many mints. So I never bought a SR of that one.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of the commons, but I never really got into that one.
Yeah. I hear ya.
It's still an
Wow.
awesome book, and now the reason why I tell people that you definitely want to buy one, it's like all the X-Men ones, even the Thanksgiving one that I always give a hard time, 308, is because once again, if you fast forward, there is going to be people who want the full run of Amazing Spider-Man 1 through 100. We've
Right.
got 13, and we've got this and that, and you're going to have to start with one. And
Wow.
so,
Good
can you
point.
find 60,000 people that want to have a full run of Amazing Spider-Man 1 through 100? I think you will.
Very cool.
And then you go to X-Men. There's a lot of X-Men fans. I know I have friends who have the entire like Uncanny X-Men run, like 1 through whatever, you
Mm,
know. And so people are gonna want so that X-Men 308, I bet you a bunch of people burn it, do all kinds of crazy things with it. But people are gonna want a full run of X-Men.
That's insane. Yeah. See, and this is why it's so important to have like an actual comic book collector like you, is like you're seeing these different insights that a lot of crypto guys and even people like myself don't see. You know what I mean? Like I would have never anticipated like, oh, let me just go and get all the amazing Spider-Mans or amazing fantasy or like uncanny X-Men, because I'd be like, well, who would really want that? But like, you know what I mean? Like this is kind of that where we're headed. And I think that the big part too is like the conviction, right? Sleeping is like being able to be like, okay, being smart in this market, not over leveraging, you know what I mean? Just being like, okay, I like this comic, it's a good comic, I'll hold on to it, and enjoying the space too. Like people forget that, you know, they're buying into a community, they're buying into, you know, a vision, they're buying into just so much more than just like complete, you know, strictly an ROI on a different NFT, right?
Yeah, it is. And same with the physical comic book community. I'm lucky enough that they haven't completely thrown me out, so I can go back there and talk on channels and participate, right?
Yeah.
But that is what it is over there too. It's different people have different passions, and it's fun, and you talk about it, and people probably put in way too much money and buy comics they shouldn't, and they have dreams that they want to get. They want to get this, whatever crazy comic, and they save up and they flip all their way and they get that comic, and it's the same thing. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. The problem
Yeah.
with this is this one has only been around for 12 months. I mean, I'm talking about the
Right.
comic side. Obviously, Todd's been around 2 years, but
Yeah.
comics have basically only digital comic collecting has been around for 12 months, 13
That's
months maybe.
insane.
Think
That's
about that.
insane. Wow. And it's crazy to think all the stuff that we've already got dropped, right? Like, and that's the thing, like, you know, even if it takes 5 6 years, right, to even start getting like that real big traction that we want to see. I mean, that's
It's
yeah.
over, man. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's over. This
Yeah.
is it. This is the game. We're going to get new books, two, maybe three runs of books for the next 10 years. And in about 5 years, when most people accept it as what it is, they're going to start releasing new comics on this thing. And it's over. It is over. I'm telling you, you can be, and I'm not saying like you're talking to the guy who likes physical comics.
It's done. I love that, man. And that's what my whole contention is about this whole first appearance on the blockchain thing, because my whole thing was utility can always change. For 5 years, a company could come in hot, throw a bunch of money at you, make collectibles really worthwhile. As soon as that run ends, unless they're sustaining it, what matters? It's the first appearance on the blockchain. It's like these things that are first editions, digital, like, you know what I mean? And the crazy part is that there's so much shit that's already been dropped. Like, think about the amount of IP, like, you know, Darth Vader, R2, C3PO, Batman, Superman, Harley Quinn. Like, it just goes on, right? And it's like, wow. Like, I mean, you know, a
But
few
they're
people,
they're
yeah,
good to go, man. Because you
yeah,
know what? Then they're gonna drop Yoda. You don't think that's gonna go bonkers? And then they're
yes,
gonna drop Luke Skywalker. And
yes,
then they're gonna drop Princess Leia. And then you're gonna drop Han Solo. And then you have to have them all three together. Oh, now you have R2D2 and CC. Oh, but now you don't have, Chewbacca. It's madness, dude. And that's only the first people. Then they're gonna drop Ahsoka
yeah,
Tano. Then they're gonna drop Rex. Then they're gonna drop. Then they're gonna have 100,000 stormtroopers, and you can buy them, and people are gonna buy them by the hundreds, so they can have their little stormtrooper. And then they're gonna drop the AT-ATs. It's not.
yeah.
It's insane. And then they're gonna drop Mace Windu. You don't think that one's gonna sell out? It's just
Yeah,
mad. It's never ending.
it
Oh
isn't.
wait, we haven't even got to Mandalorian yet. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And now let's get all their starships in. Let's get their vehicles
Oh,
in. Like,
it's
yeah,
it's over, dude. It's over. The
yeah.
only thing that people don't know yet is that the digital collecting element is too foreign to their minds. It's exactly like, my mom, not to pick on my mom's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a super smart person, graduate of MIT. So you're not
Wow.
talking about an idiot, okay? And she just back in the day was like, I'm never buying anything on the internet. That's
Mm,
like insecure. I'm not using my credit card. I could get my credit card stolen. I'm not buying stuff on the internet. It
right.
was too much. Now she might buy more on Amazon than any other human on the planet. But it's, you see my point?
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
just like too far for people yet.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they don't see that like the future of like our world and the metaverse is like potentially walking around in a skin in the metaverse and like having exceptional clout because you have one of 100 suits of whatever version, and people are like, holy shit, that's a Bugatti Veyron that just walked by. And then, you know what I'm trying to say?
It's
That's too
part of that
far.
is the what you can't own element of it. Like I can't own an Ultimate Fallout 4
Yeah.
Djevik variant. That's the secret rare. I mean, I actually could, but I mean, I don't want to spend $25,000 on it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And a Bugatti I cannot afford, but it'd be pretty fun to have, like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
You know, it's just fun to part of it, and everybody's so focused on utility and other things. I think, but part of it's just fun to own some of the stuff, collect it, kind of. I'm
Dude.
more of a pure collector. I get it,
Yeah.
but I think that every time I have kids, we buy them little pop things at those pop things that are little toys and stuffed animals and crap at Target or whatever when we're there.
Yeah.
People are gonna buy these little digital things for their kids too. It's gonna happen. It's just we're just too early, so people can't see it. And really, we can't see it because it's not
Mm.
yet there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you, man. And I think that's what people got to remember is like, all the people that took their money and left I think in my opinion you're going to miss out. And not only are you missing out necessarily on like, maybe okay, you're kind of losing a little bit of money if you're still collecting, you're not getting a lot back with the MCP that's, on the horizon, has been on the horizon for a long time. But you're learning about the space. And that's what I keep telling people too. I'm like, I was invited to this forum called Current with like comics and crypto, and it was all these people that own like toy stores or were like CEOs of NFT companies, and they're all like sharing their knowledge on the future of the space. And I'm like, man, what an opportunity as well for me to just understand more about this space in general and see how many other people are convicted too. And it's like that's what I'm trying to say is like, somebody said this to me perfectly, and I've said this a few times now, but everybody wants to be early until they're fucking early. Because once they're early,
That's a funny saying. I like that saying. That's funny.
it's funny, right? Because like everyone's always talking about, I want to be early, I want to be early, and it's like, well, early was Bitcoin when people were buying, spending $10,000, 10,000 Bitcoin on pizza slices, right?
Yeah, yeah, like the classic.
Right.
Yeah, the guy. Yeah.
So everybody
Well, I
wants
mean,
to be
even I was
there.
I was mining Bitcoin when it was like 250 a 250 a coin or
Wow.
500 coins. So
Yeah.
and I think I had wallets where I had like some Bitcoin, but I'm like, I don't even know where those wallets are because like it was 250. I was learning how I didn't care. I don't, you
Yeah.
know, maybe it wasn't a full Bitcoin, but it probably happened. I was like, whatever, that's $175, whatever. Just delete that wallet. I don't know what I'm doing. Get this other thing going. I was
Yeah.
like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing at all. And so you kind of, you're just kind of goofing around. It'd be like let's say they come out with burning, you kind of don't know what you're doing, and then you mess up and you burn like a common that's a $2 and a $2 comic. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, that's fine. That wasn't good, but I'm learning how to do this or whatever it is. That's what
Right.
it felt like, right? You didn't think
Insane.
that this coin was going to be worth 20,000 US dollars. Are you crazy?
No way. Yeah, I hear you. That was like me, man. When I first joined, I bought 18 Todds for $80.
My God, it's like amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then I was actually tipping Todds for Nightwings. I would like literally be in the
Yeah.
chat and I'd be like,
So
thanks, man.
what
Here's
did
a
you
Todd.
so okay, when you
Yeah.
bought that thing for 80, what were you thinking about yourself? When were you going to get out of that? Well, you're like, I'm going to sell this when it gets to what reasonably?
Yeah. So honestly, this is crazy because it was so I think I told the story before, but my wife, well, my fiance at the time and I just bought a house and we lived in a condo in Toronto. And so what we did is we like moved back in with my parents for like 6 months while the condo was getting built and at the same time having our wedding. So we were saving up for like everything, right?
Nice.
And then that's when I found Veve and I was like with my brother Carson. And that's how he kind of joined in the channel as well. And we're sitting and I'm like, holy shit, this is cool. And I see this Batman. And then I was like, like, I wonder what this means. And I'm like, oh, that looks like a licensed product. Like that looks like a licensed DC. And then I did a quick Google search and I saw no other Batmans other than like artists. And I saw Quid and stuff, but I was like, man, it just seemed different. And then what happened was from there is that I went and I talked to my brother about it, and I was like, man, like this is the first ever NFT. I watched a video with like Dan Crothers saying this was their first one, and then I was like, and it's the first appearance of Batman, and then something hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, holy shit, is this the first appearance on the blockchain? Like, could people think that this is like the first appearance like Batman, like Detective Comics. Like, could that
Yes,
have that
that's what
thing?
I thought. Yes, yes.
Right. And then I just went buy, 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 buy.
And so it
And
was at $80. And so
yeah,
you're in your mind, this is valued at $80. What did you think? Like
yeah,
maybe if it got you, I'm going to sell a couple of these.
yeah. So I thought it was going to get to 10 grand.
Oh
And
wow! So you
yeah,
were
I
like
was on
good
the
to go.
money.
Oh
But
wow!
the crazy part was is my brother said to me this, and this is like the part that pisses me off every time I think about it. He's like, we should
You're
buy
right.
100, right? And he goes, and what we'll do is we'll just sell them in exactly a year from now. It was March that we bought them all, and we would have sold them in March of
Oh,
2022, and it would have been
for
probably,
like 10,000 a
they
shot
were
or
like,
whatever.
exactly, it was pretty much right on. I think if we sold it like in Feb, it would have been like 14,000, but nonetheless, would have been around that time, and we would have made $1 million, $1 million+ off of that investment. And it would have cost me no more than, like, and I had like a $20,000 line of credit at the time that I could have just literally like just, the only thing is you can only have 25 Tods at a time. So you'd have to open a
Oh,
new
weird.
account. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's some
Yeah.
crazy.
It was
Yeah.
crazy. So you'd have to open a new account, but you could easily just fake an email address
Right.
or do
Right.
one of,
Back then, there's no KYC or anything.
there was
Right.
nothing, and you could transfer. So you could literally buy it another account, transfer
Right.
it back
Move.
to your main.
Right.
So it was crazy, man. And I remember at the time I was such an idiot. The 1900s serial numbers were in the loop, right? And I didn't even have the wherewithal to be like, let me try to get the 1939 serial number. You know what I
Oh
mean? It
man.
was like just sitting there at like 1902, 19. If it like now looking back, I would have been just stacking that. So it's insane looking back. And honestly, it's like it almost needs to see a psychologist to be like, hey, help me out, Yeah.
Yeah. But it's still, I think we're early. So we're gonna be able to, the lessons we've learned, even, me now, because I still, have a lot of the comics I buy, it's 3 or 4 years till I'm able to sell them. Like, the
Right.
Ms. Marvel comics that I bought, I had to wait. The American, that's fine. And so I had that mentality, and I actually think that's wrong. So what I've been doing is I'll buy, if I believe in something, I'll buy 5 to 10 of them.
Hmm.
And so let's just easy numbers. I'll say I buy them at 100, and then I project when I think I'm going to be able to sell them. And when it starts moving, so let's say I always try and double my money. I'm a really big, if you ever watch my channel, I'm really big on doubling my money. I don't go for
Cool.
times 10. I don't go for whatever. Now you take swings, like Miles Morales SR is a swing. I'm not going to sell it at double. It's a swing to try to get a times 10, right? Or something crazy.
Yes, exactly.
But most things, like when I got that comic, the Marvel Now SR comic, I bought for 100. My expectation was to sell it at 200. Now I didn't sell a lot of those, so that's a bad example. But most of the other ones, I'm trying to get a flip. So a 2x. But I'll sell now. The big thing is I will sell along the way. That's why I bought 10 of them. So I have had comics that here's a perfect example. I'll give you an example. X-Men 266, which is the first appearance of Gambit. Okay, 20,000 mint. I went in hard on the ultra rares because they were all under $25. And in doing some other analysis I won't get into here, I expected it to get to 50.
Right.
Okay. So I bought 37 of them, I think it was. Okay. Under $25.
Wow, nice.
It got to 30, I sold one. It got to 40, I sold one. It got to 45, I sold one. It got to 50, I sold like a couple, and then it came back down. Now I think you can go buy them again for 25. I didn't sell on the way down. I probably should have, but it went down fast. But
Mm,
see, I made a little bit of profit there.
yeah.
That's one of the biggest difference that in my strategy. I never would have done that before. I would have just waited till it got to 50 and tried to start selling them. So
Right.
my game plan now is to sell on the way up. Well, and if it comes back down, then you just hold, right? And maybe I should start accumulating and get under 25. I probably will.
Yeah.
But that is a system that I have come up with. So, for example, Miles Morales, the hoodie one. I love that one.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have 4 of them right now, 3 or 4 of them. I can't remember. I'm planning on buying more. I'll try and get to 10. And I think that thing can get to 400. There's only
Right.
1,700 of them, and I'm going to sell on the way up. You'll watch me in the market. You'll see Sleeping Comics selling one in there.
Yeah.
And maybe it won't get to 400, but I'll make some profit back. So the profit I make, and if I'm buying, I'm trying to buy under 200, those Miles Morales hoodie ones.
Love that one.
Oh, it's such a great one.
Yeah.
And so, um, let's say I sell 5 of them when it pushes up. Okay. Well, if it pushes up and stays there, then I'll just be able to sell them, one a month or whatever for a long time and get liquidity out of it, right?
Yeah.
And if it goes back down, it goes back down. I don't care. But the profit that I've made has basically all those other ones that I bought at 200 now are like I bought them at like 150 now.
Right. Exactly. You
So
got,
that
I
when
see what you're
it goes
saying.
up again, and if I wanted to, I could reset and do the math. Sometimes I do. My new price point to sell them all and double my money, technically at that point, would be 300, not 400.
Damn.
So I'm just trying to make money in this bear market. I will have to change and would change my strategy once, we all hope that, a bull market eventually comes. But in this market,
Yeah.
that's what I've been trying to do.
Wow. Wow. Man, I love that. It's funny because, I was never a big stacker. I had a lot of stacks, but what happened was for me is similar to what you're saying there is like, like even what I was saying earlier, if I had 100 Todds and it went to 14K, I'm like, oh, I would have cashed a million. But like, you have to remember, like, they saw my name come up 100 times.
You
You know,
can't sell them. You have to
that's what
sell
I'm
them
trying
one
to
at a
say.
time.
Exactly. I'd have to sell on the way up, sell on the way down, get
Yeah.
lucky, a few in the middle, right?
I mean, you
Um,
could probably throw them up, but you would destroy the market. If you would have
you
dumped
would.
100 Todds
Oh
out
my
there,
God.
you would just wreck the market. So
Yeah.
it is an element of um playing some of those games, and that's why I would sell at every increment. When it would bump up, I was selling at every increment. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
And it's tough because sometimes you don't pay attention. I mean, I'm making it sound simpler than it is, and sometimes it works and sometimes it hasn't. But that literally was the way that what happened in that X-Men 266 ultra rare
Wow.
about a week ago. And I don't even know. I had one sitting out there for whatever 30, 35, and suddenly it sold. And it had been sitting there literally forever. And I was like, whoa. And so then I got excited and I did the next one. I put it at 45 and then that one sold. And I was like,
That's
whoa, this is great. And then
crazy.
now I ended up only selling like 4 or 5 of them. But
Yeah, but
still, I was
still.
like, hey, I'll take the
Yeah.
profit for now and keep it
That's
going.
exactly, that's perfect, man. And my game has been completely eliminated because my brother and I were part of the low mint game. So what we do, this is a strategy we had, and a lot of people didn't know this way back in the day. You'd have to filter, go low edition to high edition, and then you had to be literally the first fucking person in the market. As soon as that market, you were just refreshing, refreshing, refreshing. As soon as that market went live, we were just literally going after low mints, right? And the problem, this is what happened. There's always be like the newbie that would like just 2x the floor and wouldn't know a lot about it. So you sometimes get like a 43 or whatever, and you'd be able to like buy it and then literally make like some man. One time I made just over $10,000 for a
Yeah,
flip.
I saw. You talked about that is amazing.
Yeah, in one flip.
In like 15, 20 minutes or something like you said. Yeah, it's crazy.
It was 30 seconds.
Oh
It
my god!
was literally like me just buying. I just saw the
And then you
floor.
just relisted it.
I just relisted it right away instantly because the thing that happened is a lot of people that were like coming into the market think that that's the first listing as well, right? So like because I
Oh,
already beat them, it like this is a once in a blue moon thing. Like this all like but so it was crazy because what I did is I took that money, whatever it was, 10 grand, and then I went up and I bought all the low mint Elsas that same time.
wow!
And
Wow!
and then what I did is then I just recycled them all at like a K and a half higher, and 3 out of the 4 of them got bought up. I still made so much money. I had to
That was a
hold the
great
bag.
day.
I was an insane day. It was like 14 or 15 grand in like literally like 10 to 15 minutes. And that's the shit that I miss. Like when I look back now,
Now
I'm
people are
like,
too smart.
yeah, now people are way too smart, right?
Although I have the
Yeah.
41 Daredevil,
I saw congrats
and
on
then I have
that.
the 41 Silver Surfer.
Oh my God, bro.
So those are 2 good ones that I'll keep that I think will be valuable.
Damn,
Yeah,
that's impressive. I've got a low mint Daredevil as well, like a sub 100, but 40 man, because I saw there was another guy that came in after you as well, and he priced all the 44, 45, and he's
yeah.
like,
I talked to that guy because I wanted
yeah,
to.
yeah.
So yeah, it's the 41s are interesting. Have you ever had a 41?
I'll
It's
be honest,
basically
I don't
like a
think I've ever had.
101.
Yeah, I've
It's
never had a
basically it
41.
is a difference because I've had 42s before, and so
Yeah,
for some reason the 41 is like psychologically much different.
no
And
kidding.
so and what people will say and talk to you and want to do and want to negotiate, is much different. Now I've actually tried to sell the Daredevil one because I was actually trying to get
I
gems to
saw that.
buy Miles, and
Yeah.
I was putting out crazy prices, but no one went for it because of course they're saving their gems for Miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now it's off the. Now I get some people asking, but I'm like, I'm taking it off the market, and although, yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think I'm going to. I have been resisting putting in any fiat whatsoever, and
Yeah.
I think I may put some fiat in and buy another Miles SR.
Wow. Nice.
So, but right before we got on, a bunch of people were messaging me because I've told people that, and they're like, "Did you just buy all the Miles?"
Oh, wow. What's it
So I
at?
think like a bunch of them got bought right before we came on.
Holy shit.
So we should look at it. Yeah, because it was at 36,
Yeah.
and there were four of them. Those are all gone, and it's at 3.9 right now.
Wow.
So I bet you 10 or 12 were purchased today. I was trying to, I have the names and I was trying to write, I try to track it a little bit, you know.
And the
I think
crazy
10
part
were
too,
purchased today.
and the crazy part about this is like once they're purchased, like you think about it, like how many times, right? Did the hands have to shift over until somebody's just saying, "Yeah, I'm never like I'll never be able to get this again." You know what I mean? So
So right now, and once again, this is my analysis. Anybody
yeah,
who's, has it for 25,000, I don't think they're trying to sell it. They're just trying to have fun with it,
they're
right?
trying to flex. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So 10, 11, 12, 13. I'd say there's like maybe 13 that are like legitimate people that are like, hey, I really am trying to sell this right now.
Hmm.
And then it might go bye bye. And
And
I don't
what's
know
yeah,
if Profit has come in and decided to eat his share yet either.
I don't think he has, man. I think he's chilling because there's just a lot of people right now that I don't think have a lot of whales that I didn't think really got into it because I never saw that price really fly, right? Because it was like started off 7.5, and then it kind of came down to like three and a
A
half,
lot
and then
people
yeah,
that I've been talking to have one. A lot of people I know have one.
yeah,
There was some resistance to buying because it was a lot of bots, and you could just tell they were bots. They were
I
like
know.
they had one collectible and they were like a private account or
That's the
whatever.
worst. That's the worst.
So there was people resistant to buying those. Obviously, they did end up selling. And then um so I think there's 13 legitimate people. Once again we don't know, right? But that's what it seems like to me. And
Yeah.
then you know but here's another thing that like a ton of people have told me. Like I know a guy who has three of them already, and what did he say to
Jeez.
me? I'm putting gems together to buy another.
That's insane.
So but I mean it's insane for normal humans like you and me, but these guys it's just like
It's a
what
joke. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Man, I'm having trouble finding it right now. I'm like on the
it's
brands.
not easy to find because people are not listing them. I'm looking at I'm
Yeah.
refreshing it right now, so it's kind of no
Just gonna
fun.
go to
Obviously, they
Marvel
need a
here.
search bar. Please, God, we need a search bar.
I know. I'm tired of it, man. I'm like now it's just like,
It's
I
getting
just
rough.
it's
It's
getting
getting
rough.
difficult.
Man. Yeah.
Yeah, I go down to Marvel or Spider-Man and the brands. I search via the brands.
Okay,
And
let me
another
do
thing they
that.
just took out that was the way I used to do it is if you list it,
Yeah.
then you can go to your listings and click on it, and then you could get it that way. But now that doesn't work anymore. It literally stopped working in the last
Oh
2 weeks.
God.
So that doesn't work anymore.
That's so
That's why I would
crazy.
list stuff because then it was easy for me to go there and look at it and get it to find. So I don't know. I was thinking about tweeting them and asking them to put that back, but whatever.
Wow. Yeah, so we
But
got
yeah,
okay. So I finally found it. Yeah. So bottom one is 124,
yes,
3.9K, I think it is. Yeah. Wow.
yes.
Crazy. Yeah, because they're at 3.5, right? Earlier.
The low I saw, I think, was 3.5.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
And so
Yeah.
there was a ton, there was four in there at like 3.6, and then there was one at 3.7. So, and then over the course of the day, the ones that I've been calculating, it looks like I would guess about 10 were sold today.
That's insane.
All between 3.5 and 4.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I do think that's why people said you should just wait till it comes down. But I decided to buy mine because I just didn't, for me, it was an important piece and I didn't want
Yeah.
to play the game. And 3.6 versus 3.9,
I
it
know.
didn't matter to me personally. And I am thinking that this is a potentially 10x. People, this is probably not going to age well on the internet.
Yeah,
People are going to
yeah.
make fun of me.
Yeah.
But but that's my thought process.
Yeah.
So, let's do the math right here. So I'm thinking maybe 40,000. That's what's, 35, 30, let's do the
Yeah.
easy math, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, we'll see, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I know what you're saying too. Like, and there's only so much to go around. So I mean, and these are the plays that I keep telling people too. Is like the other part of this is like you only really need one NFT when you have a killer NFT. Like that's the way I say it too. Is like for people that are trying to build clout or trying to build a space or want to be part of a really cool club. Like if you, for me personally, that's just the way I operate. If I only had 10,000 gems, I'd be like, let me get a partners, let me get a miles and like whatever. And then from there, I'll just start collecting other things. But at least I've got some big heavy hitters. That because I think about like what are the future opportunities with that? Are there clubs? Am I going to be able to hang out with Sleepyn? Am I going to be able to hang out with other whales that have these things? You know what I mean? Um,
What are
so
your
yeah,
thoughts on the MCP program? I'm pretty bullish on it. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah. So MCP for me is, I think it's really going to help with engagement. I think it's going to bring a lot of people back that don't really like to collect right now. Um, I think it's going to do a lot, man. I think it's going to be like really good for the market because now you're going to have a lot of like, people that don't have the same amount of money to invest that may actually start winning because now they're getting all these points, recurrent points for these cheaper comics. And then when burning comes in and all the whales of the world are burning the cheap comics, then all of these people that, well, everyone's going to rise. And that it's an insane system. I've never seen it in the collecting world in my, and I'm like, I think it's going to be revolutionary again, right?
The only one that's close, I think, is HRO. They
Yeah,
have some system,
exactly.
and it
That's
actually they're
fair.
quite successful from what I don't know a lot about it, but I think it's been really successful.
Yeah, it has been. You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
The I'm pretty bullish on it. It's tough to know, but and I've kind of fallen out. But I used to have be in the top 100 for wallets in terms of comics and collectibles if you add them
Damn.
together.
Wow.
Um, I think I'm like 105 now or something like that.
That's
I
insane.
can't keep up with these other crazy people. But of course that what does that mean? Do you have sets? I have about 45 sets, which is low probably compared to some of these guys. But I have really ones that are worth a lot of points. Like I have the Cryptkins. I look at done all the math and been buying a lot of the stuff based off of the per point stuff. And so
Right.
like the best bang for the buck that you can get right now is the rare comics. So,
Yeah.
and if you're looking at math, you really want the best. An MCP point for $5 or less is really you're doing well. So an example would be a rare comic, which gives you 2 points. If you can buy it under $10, that you're
Mm.
doing well. But people are like, well, why don't you buy the secret rares? Well, a secret rare then would have to be 30,
Mm.
and you never find a secret rare comic for 30. That's why it's
Yeah.
fun to own those, but from a dollar per point perspective, they're not the best. Now, once again, I bought a bunch of those, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but ultra rares, which offer 3 points, you want to buy for $15. So if you could get one for 14, then you're doing well. So I
Mm.
watch that a lot. And I have bought a lot of rares for under $8 and a lot of ultra rares for under $15. And I have, 50 of them. So I have a lot of them. So the
Yeah.
points that I'm getting is pretty, for at least bang for the buck, it's very high. And I think I've tried to do some computation. I should be okay. Of course, I'd like to be a master collector, but we'll just have to see. I don't know. I have no idea. In order to be a master collector, do you have to be in the top 1%? Do you have to be in the top
I know.
0.01%? We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's so cool. I didn't know that you're like, I knew you were a big boy, but I didn't know that you're 105, man. That's amazing. Yeah. I
Well,
think I don't know where I said. I'm probably like, I don't know, 82,366. No, I'm just joking. Yeah. But it's so cool. Like, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, the people that we have in this space are amazing, right? And they bring so much knowledge to the table. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like for me, man, you're like I told you before, you're one of my favorite guys out there. If you haven't followed Sleepin yet, please do so now. His YouTube channel is in the description is below. His Twitter is in the description as well. And like I said, he's a mastermind. I feel like I could just keep talking, but I just know that I'm like, oh, we've already been going for like an hour 20 something. So I'm like, I just want to make sure that people can digest all this great information. But Sleeping, anything else maybe for the viewers before we take
No,
off?
I just really appreciate coming on. It's great. We got to do it again for sure. So much
Yeah.
fun. Great talking to you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, man. We gotta have part two soon. Okay, folks. Awesome. Thanks, Sleeping.